Hi friends! Today we're gonna be working in Create This Book 2 again. And the first prompt that I chose is create a historical reference. Write about or draw pictures of any historical event or figure. So the topic that I chose for this is the Demon Core. I prepared the page with some black background and I wrote down the text on my computer and printed it out on this old looking grayish brownish paper, and I used this typewriter font to make it really look like it was written several decades ago. Okay, the text is in the book, and now I will tell you about the Demon Core while I draw some images to go along on the page. The Demon Core was a subcritical 6.2 kilogram sphere of plutonium, manufactured at the height of World War II by the Manhattan Project, to be the core of a third atomic bomb dropped on Japan. Stripped of its military purpose after Japan's surrender, the sphere remained locked away inside the secret laboratories of Los Alamos, New Mexico. To the naked eye, it looked like a harmless, dull gray ball. But in reality, it was a sleeping dragon, a concentrated mass of unstable atoms, waiting for one wrong move to unleash hell. On the night of August 21st, 1945, 24-year-old physicist Harry Daghlian was working alone in the lab, manually building a wall around the plutonium sphere using neutron-reflective tungsten carbide bricks. His goal was to force the escaping neutrons back into the core, inching it closer and closer to criticality. Daghlian accidentally dropped one of the bricks onto the core and thereby caused it to go into supercriticality, a self-sustaining critical chain reaction. Instantly, the room erupted with a blinding flash of blue light and a sudden intense wave of heat. Daghlian quickly knocked the brick away to stop the reaction, but the damage was done. He had received a fatal dose of radiation and died 25 days later from acute radiation poisoning. 9 months later, on May 21, 1946, 35-year-old physicist Louis Slotin conducted another experiment to verify the closeness of the core to criticality. He performed what is known as tickling the dragon's tail in front of 7 other scientists. He used 2 half-domes of beryllium to encase the core. If the halves fully closed, the core would instantly go supercritical, and the only thing keeping them apart was the blade of a flathead screwdriver that Slotin was manipulating by hand. Tragically, the screwdriver slipped out of his hand, and the beryllium shells slammed shut. Another flare of blue light flooded the room, accompanied by an intense heat wave and a metallic taste of ozone in Slotin's mouth. Slotin reacted quickly and flipped the top dome off the core with his bare hands, but it was too late. He reportedly turned to his colleagues in the hushed room and famously remarked, "Well, that does it." As an expert in criticality, he knew he was doomed. He had received a dose of incredible 21 sieverts, roughly 4 times what is considered a lethal dose. He died 9 days later after enduring the agonizing symptoms of radiation sickness. Pretty scary story, right? But after the 2 fatal accidents, they had learned their lesson, and hands-on criticality tests had been banned for good. The plutonium sphere, which was baptized Demon Core after all that had happened, was eventually melted down and recycled into the US nuclear stockpile. So, just adding some finishing touches to the page. It has a completely different vibe than the other pages I did before, but still I really like how it turned out. The next prompt we'll be working on is create a recreation. Find a photo, drawing, or piece of writing from when you were younger. Recreate it here. I found this concept sketch of Starry Night that we had to do in 9th grade in high school. Here you can see I was in grade 9A. And the book gives us 2 options. Either improve your old work or replicate your old work as closely as possible. Well, I think we all agree that this is not the best piece of art ever created, so of course I'm going for option 1 and trying to improve it. This time I'm not gonna use colored pencils, but instead acrylics. And I learned from a tutorial that this picture actually has an underpainting. So I did this brownish underpainting as well, and then used some white acrylic paint to roughly sketch out the picture. And then the really hard work began, because we have to fill in the entire sky with these little dashes. Honestly, when I planned out this page, I thought this would be easy peasy and super quickly done, but oh, it was not. I mean, the school sketch was not that detailed or very well done, and I guess I had finished that in half an hour. But this one, wow, I really tried to go into detail and do all the dashes like Van Gogh had done it, and yeah, it took several hours. It was really tiring. Actually, I sped up the footage 100 times and even deleted some parts, so yeah, maybe you get a feeling for how long this picture took me. But you know, this is one out of my 3 favorite paintings ever, so that's why I definitely had to recreate it for one of my 3 Create These books. My other 2 favorite paintings, besides this masterpiece of Van Gogh, are The Great Wave of Kanagawa by Japanese painter Hokusai and American Gothic by Grant Wood. Let's throw in the fun fact at this point so that it doesn't get too tiring to watch. Vincent van Gogh painted Starry Night in 1889 while staying at a mental asylum in France. The village of the bottom is not the view from his window, but a made-up town from his imagination. Scientists found that the swirly patterns in the sky accurately depict fluid turbulence, which is the intrinsic and complex movement of liquids and gases. Van Gogh himself didn't like Starry Night and considered it to be a failure. Well, I do not agree with him on this point. Well, as I didn't really like the original piece that I recreated, I did this kind of composition book cover to hide it, so it wouldn't jump right into your face when you open the page. And I also added a label where I included the school year in which I did this sketch, and that was 2010-11. I like this style of composition books. We don't have them in Germany though, so I never had a school book that looked like this, but again, I just love the aesthetics of that. Now let's bring everything together. First, let's hide our not so beautiful sketch under the composition book cover. And then on the opposite page, we have the recreation as well as the fun fact. And here is the finished page. I really like that I could even include a little interactive element. Now let's move to the final prompt of today, create an assortment. Fill in each box with something different. So my idea for that is to fill each box with a travel souvenir that I got. I'm starting off with this leprechaun that I bought in Ireland. The initial plan was to use a Sakura fine liner, because they're basically the only ones that don't bleed through, and then color it in with colored pencils. However, I realized that the colored pencils really smeared the fine liner, so eventually I switched gears and used acrylic markers instead. So, leprechauns are fairy-like creatures from Irish folklore that are depicted as bearded shoemakers who guard hidden pots of gold at the end of rainbows. The next souvenir is this super cool nesting doll, or matryoshka, which is typical for Russia. I've never been to Russia so far, but they are basically available everywhere in Eastern Europe, and I bought this one in Czech Republic. This time I didn't bother with doing the outlines first because they would be covered by the acrylic markers anyways. So instead I just went straight in with the acrylic markers and the metallic gel pens. I've always been fascinated by these nesting dolls. I think they're just so cool and beautiful. After I had finished all the tedious little details and added a colorful background, I finally drew in the outlines. Moving on to the next souvenir, which is this Daruma doll that I bought in Japan. And you can see it has two blank eyes. And the idea is that you draw in one eye to make a wish and draw in the other eye once this wish has been fulfilled. These Daruma dolls are actually modeled after the Indian monk Bodhidharma, who is the founder of Zen Buddhism. And finally adding the outlines. The next souvenir is this little runestone magnet that I got in Iceland. And I chose this for one of the small boxes. This was pretty quick and easy. Alright, here you can see it with the outlines. Then, let's move on to the next souvenir. This is one from my own country. I actually bought this in a souvenir shop in my city, and it is just a very beautiful handcrafted nutcracker. It was a bit intimidating for me to work directly in the book. You know, I'm very perfectionist, so I prefer to work on a separate sheet of paper, so in case I'm not happy with it, I can just throw it away without having ruined the book. But some prompts require you to work directly in the book, and I think from time to time it doesn't do any harm if you have to step out of your comfort zone. Alright, let's add the outlines and move on to the next super cute souvenir. This is Mr. Bean's beloved teddy that I bought in the UK. At first I didn't want to buy it, but then it just didn't go out of my head, and eventually I returned to the shop where I had seen it and finally bought it. The next souvenir is the Rooster of Barcelos, which is typical for Portugal. I actually have two of them, this larger green one that I bought in Lisbon in Portugal, and this smaller one that I bought on the island of Madeira. If you don't know Madeira, it belongs to Africa geographically, but politically it is a part of Portugal. It has a very unique climate and flora. It is called the island of eternal spring, and yeah, basically the weather there is always like spring. The rooster is outlined, so let's move on to the next souvenir. This is an alabaster statue of the goddess Isis that I bought in Egypt. It is pretty detailed and contains a lot of gold, so this was quite a trust the process project. It looked really bad until the very end when I had added the outlines. By the way, Isis is the goddess of magic, fertility, motherhood and healing, and she is the wife of Osiris, the lord of the underworld, and the mother of Horus, the god of the sky. Okay, let's finally add the outlines. Yes, this looks so much better. Alright, the next souvenir is the Della horse from Sweden. Usually they are those very typical wooden horses, however I didn't get a wooden one, instead I bought this key charm. Okay, next we have a boomerang that I bought in Australia. Yeah, here you can see handmade in Australia, so I honestly never tried it, but I suppose it should work. I'm also adding this kind of Aboriginal dot art that is on my boomerang at the outline, and that's it. The next souvenir is this beautiful mask that I bought in Venice, Italy. And let me tell you, this was another trust the process project. It looked extremely stupid for most of the time, and I was getting a bit frustrated, but luckily, again, as soon as the outlines were there, it looked quite decent, and I ended up really liking it. I finished off the piece with adding some sparkles with my silver metallic gel pen. Okay, next we need something for the smallest box, and I want to do a Swiss chocolate. Of course, I had Swiss chocolate, but I don't have it anymore. Guess why? But I still have this super cute key charm that I took as reference. Okay, let's move on to those wooden shoes from the Netherlands. Well, obviously I didn't buy the real shoes, but instead this cute key charm. Painted on the shoes are some tulips, which are also really typical for the Netherlands. And with the outlines, it looks much better. Okay, we have our final souvenir for this page. This is a Mexican ragdoll. Unfortunately, I haven't been to Mexico myself. I had planned a trip there to visit some friends. However, I didn't know that I needed a visa to change planes in the US, and so I didn't have that visa and I wasn't allowed on the plane. I don't want to think about it, I'm still really upset, but it's okay. Anyways, these friends gifted me this super cute ragdoll, and so of course I added it to the page as well. To touch up the page even more, I wanted to try some hand lettering, so I wrote souvenirs from around the world and then labeled each of the objects. And here is the finished page. Now it's time for the recap of this episode. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you like the prompts that I did today. And if you like, I will see you in my next video. Bye bye!